The table is full. There's food, there's conversation, there's laughter. Someone is telling a story. Someone else is looking at their phone. The grandchildren are running around. And in the middle of all of it, sitting right there, close enough to touch, an elderly parent goes quiet. Not because they're tired, not because they don't care, but because something in that room isn't reaching them. You might have seen this before. A parent who seems distant at a family gathering. A mother who smiles but doesn't quite arrive in the conversation. A father who eats, nods, and then looks out the window for a moment longer than necessary. And the strange thing is, the family is right there. So how does someone feel deeply alone in a room full of the people they love most? That question matters more than it might seem. Because the answer isn't about ingratitude or personality or old age making people difficult. It's about something much more specific and much more human, happening quietly inside people who often don't know how to say it out loud. Here's the first and most important thing to understand. Being surrounded by people is not the same as feeling connected to them. Those are two completely different experiences. And for many elderly parents, the gap between those two things grows wider with time, not because their family loves them less, but because the kind of presence they need becomes harder to find in the middle of busy, distracted, well-meaning family life. Loneliness researchers have a term for this. They call it social isolation without physical isolation, the experience of feeling unseen or unreached even in the presence of others. And studies consistently show that this form of loneliness is one of the most common and least recognized emotional realities of aging. But here's what those studies don't always say clearly enough. This kind of loneliness isn't just about not talking. It's about not mattering in the conversation. It's about being in the room, but not being in the room. Present in body, but absent in the emotional landscape of the gathering. And for an elderly parent, that distinction carries a specific weight, because many of them spent decades being the center of the family, the ones who organized, who held things together, who were needed. And somewhere along the way, without anyone announcing it, that changed. That's where this starts. But that's not where it ends. There's rarely a moment when a family decides, consciously, to move an elderly parent to the edges of their emotional world. It doesn't happen like that. It happens slowly, in small and invisible ways. A parent stops being asked for advice, not out of cruelty, but because adult children start solving problems on their own. A parent's stories get listened to a little less carefully, not with contempt, but with the half attention of someone whose mind is already on something else. A parent's opinion gets received politely, then gently set aside, because life has moved in a direction that doesn't quite include them anymore. None of this is anyone's fault, and yet all of it is felt. Elderly parents often notice this shift long before they say anything about it. They register the difference between being listened to and being waited out. They notice when a conversation about their past is received with warmth, but without real curiosity. They sense when they are being cared for rather than cared about. And most of the time, they say nothing. Not because they don't feel it, but because they've learned, sometimes over years, that saying it out loud creates discomfort. That it might make them seem needy, that it might burden the people they love. So instead, they go quiet. They smile at the right moments. They say, "I'm fine." And the family, relieved that nothing seems wrong, moves on. We tend to picture loneliness as something visible, someone sitting alone, isolated, with nowhere to go. But the loneliness many elderly parents feel looks nothing like that. It looks like a grandmother who laughs at the family jokes but hasn't shared something personal in months. It looks like a father who asks about his grandchildren's lives in detail, but is never asked about his own. It looks like a parent who is driven to appointments, included in holiday dinners, and checked on regularly, and still feels, somewhere deep down, like a guest in a family that used to be theirs. The psychologist Robert Weiss made a distinction decades ago between social loneliness, the absence of community, and emotional loneliness, the absence of a truly close, responsive relationship. An elderly parent can have plenty of social contact and still be experiencing profound emotional loneliness. Family dinners don't cure that. Visits don't cure that. Calls to check on medication don't cure that. What cures it, or at least eases it, is something harder to schedule. It's the experience of being known, of having someone in the room who is genuinely curious about what you think, what you feel, what you remember, what you're afraid of. Someone who isn't just checking that you're okay, but who actually wants to know who you are. And for many elderly parents, that experience becomes increasingly rare, not because their family stopped loving them, but because everyone got busy, and that particular kind of attention requires something that busy lives don't always have room for: stillness. If this is starting to describe someone you know, or maybe something you felt yourself as you watched a parent drift quietly to the edges of family life, I want you to stay with this video. Because what we've covered so far is really just the surface, the deeper layer, why this happens even in close, loving families, and what's actually going on inside an elderly parent when it does. That's what the next part of this video is about. If this is resonating with you, take a second and hit the like button. It tells me this kind of content is worth going deeper on, and then keep watching, because the next part changes the picture significantly. There's a specific experience that many elderly people describe, often only in private or with great hesitation: the feeling of becoming invisible. Not invisible in the physical sense, but invisible in the sense that their inner life, their thoughts, their feelings, their fears, their joys, no longer seems to register with the people around them. They are seen as a body that needs care. They are not always seen as a person who has a rich, ongoing emotional world. This is one of the most painful aspects of aging within a family, because it's not malicious, it's almost structural. The older a parent gets, the more the family's concern tends to focus on their physical well-being. Are they eating? Are they safe? Are they taking their medication? And that concern is real and important. But somewhere in that shift, the emotional interior of the person can get quietly overlooked. An elderly parent who feels this way rarely says, "I feel emotionally invisible to you." Instead, they might get quieter at gatherings. They might stop offering opinions. They might repeat stories, not because they've forgotten they've told them, but because those stories are one of the few places where they still feel like someone worth listening to, where their life still has shape and meaning that others can see. The repetition of stories, the withdrawn silences, the careful smallness, these aren't signs of decline. They're often signs of someone adjusting to a world in which they feel they take up less space than they used to. Underneath all of this, underneath the silence, the withdrawal, the smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, there is often a fear that most elderly parents never put directly into words. The fear of being a burden. It shapes more behavior than most families realize. It's why a parent doesn't call as often as they want to. It's why they say, "Don't worry about me," when they mean the opposite. It's why they sit quietly at the dinner table instead of asking for the kind of attention they're genuinely longing for. Because somewhere inside, they have calculated, rightly or wrongly, that asking for emotional closeness is an imposition, that their need for connection is too much, that the family has enough to carry. And so, they carry it alone, in plain sight. This is where loneliness and dignity become intertwined in a way that makes the whole thing much harder to address. Because the same pride and restraint that kept them functional for decades, that made them good parents, good providers, good people, now works against them. It prevents them from asking for what they need. It makes them experts at hiding how much they feel. Families often don't see this because the camouflage is so good. An elderly parent who has spent 70 or 80 years managing their own emotions is not going to suddenly announce that they feel forgotten. They will simply become a little harder to reach, a little more surface level in conversation, a little more focused on logistics and less on anything vulnerable. And if nobody notices the shift, or notices but doesn't know what to do with it, the distance quietly grows. Here's the part that tends to surprise people. Fixing this doesn't require more time. It doesn't require dramatic gestures or long, difficult conversations. It doesn't require reorganizing family life. What it requires is a different quality of attention in whatever time is already there. An elderly parent who feels invisible doesn't need more visits. They need a moment inside a visit where someone looks at them, not at their health, not at their logistics, and asks something real. What's been on your mind lately? Do you ever think about that time you mentioned before? What did that feel like for you? Questions that treat them as someone with an interior life worth exploring. Questions that say, without saying it, I still want to know you, not just check on you, know you. The difference between those two things, being checked on and being known, is exactly the difference between loneliness and connection. And elderly parents can feel it immediately. The way someone sits, the direction of their attention, whether the conversation feels like a task being completed or a relationship being honored. Small moments of real presence do more than hours of dutiful proximity. Because what loneliness is, at its core, is not the absence of people. It's the absence of feeling that your inner world matters to someone else. So the next time you're in a room with an elderly parent who seems fine, who says the right things, who smiles at the right moments, who doesn't ask for anything, it might be worth pausing for just a second, not because something is necessarily wrong, but because fine is sometimes the most practiced word in a person's vocabulary. And the quietest people in a crowded room are sometimes the ones who have simply stopped expecting to be found. That's not sadness to be fixed. It's a person who has lived long enough to know that love doesn't always come in the form they need most, and who has quietly made peace with that, even when they didn't have to. Understanding this doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require guilt. It requires something simpler and harder: attention. The kind that says, I see you, not just I see that you're okay. If this video made you think of something an elderly parent has said to you that you didn't fully understand at the time, there's another video on this channel that might go even deeper for you. It's called What Elderly Parents Really Mean When They Say, I'm Fine, and it explores the specific language elderly people use to say something they're not quite saying. The connection between these two videos is real. One explains the silence, the other explains what lives inside it. Click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now. See you soon.